BioNano Genomics, ticker symbol BNGO, has been going off the charts recently. Today, look, let me pull it up here just to make sure I get these numbers right. It is up $1.54, which is 115%. This week alone, it is up 284%. And on the month, it is up almost 500%. This company has been making absolute shockwaves through the investor market, especially people who follow penny stocks. It's something that I've not necessarily been into for a while, but I have started to kind of take notice of them over the last couple of weeks, started to pay attention a little bit more. And after hearing about this one from a subscriber, I had to check it out, and I must say that I am intrigued. This company has a whole bunch of things going for it, and I'm excited to bring them to you guys today. If you guys do enjoy this video, again, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe if you are new to the channel. If you have any thoughts about BNGO or BioNano Genomics, if you have any input, feedback, news, anything like that, you can let me know down in the comment section below. I always interact with you guys there, and I will always reply there as well. But that being said, let's go ahead, let's jump into it. There's so much to break down with this company, and I want to make it quick, I want to make it simple, and I want to make it easy to understand, and so let's jump straight into it. So, what is BioNano Genomics, and what do they do? BioNano Genomics, Inc. is a life sciences instrumentation company which focuses on genome analysis space. The firm engages in the development and marketing of the Sapphire system, a platform for ultra-sensitive and ultra-specific structural variation detection that enables researchers and clinicians to accelerate the search for new diagnostics and therapeutic targets and to streamline cytogenetics. The company was founded by Han Kao in October 2003 and is headquartered in San Diego, California. So basically what they do is they have a system that focuses on finding structural variations. They focus on things such as cancers, and I will break all this down. I will go into it in depth. I'll actually pull up their investor overview just to be able to really explain it into detail. But basically they have revolutionary technology that could save lives in the future. They have some very, very amazing science and a system that makes things super duper easy, and they are a super intriguing company. Now, not only that, whenever you do first pull up their investor overview, one thing that stands out to me is a certain piece in their investor overview, and that I'll talk about here. So it says, BioNano Genomics seeks to enhance shareholder value not only through exceptional business performance and practices, but also through responsible and effective communication with its shareholders. The latest company information relevant to the individual and institutional investor includes stock price and history, upcoming events and presentations, and financial documents. The reason I'm so intrigued by that is because I think a lot of companies they don't value speaking to their shareholders and speaking to their investors enough. There's certain companies, especially the ones that have come out this year, that are really quiet. We don't really get all the updates from them. We don't get all the news from them. They don't keep us updated as much as I think they should. And a company like this, as you can see from their corporate overview, they list out all their news. They make sure all their investors are up to date on every single thing that does happen. And that is a very, very amazing aspect. I really do like that. I think as an investor, it makes things super convenient for me. And it'll make things a lot easier going into the future to stay up to date with your investment and to keep focused on what exactly is all going on. So we will go into the basis around why they started to develop this technology. I'm going to talk about a little bit of what they do, give a little bit of an overview of the science, and I will just basically break down what the whole main premise of their company is. So right here, as you can see, that they say that neurodevelopmental disorders, for example, including autism, spectrum disorder, intellectual disability, and ADHD, occur at a rate of 1 in every 6 people. That means that yet for 50 to 70% of patients tested, their results are negative, meaning their disease may not be properly diagnosed. That means for over half of the people who get tested, it comes back negative, even if they may have one of these disorders. And so with that being said, without a definitive molecular diagnosis that explains the genetic condition underlying their disease, these patients may not obtain optimal treatment, and their diagnostic odyssey could continue. And then whenever it goes into blood cancers, about 180,000 new cases of leukemias, lymphomas, and melanomas are diagnosed each year in the US. Yet again, for 50 to 70% of patients tested, the results are negative, meaning that they have the disease, yet no actionable genetic markers are detected. Meaning they have it, but there's no way for the basic, test to detect it. And that could be very dangerous when it comes to blood cancers. This means that these patients may not obtain optimal treatment and their diagnostic odyssey could continue. Even with a definitive diagnosis and good prognosis, split survival, where average survival is split between long survival and short, is common in leukemia. Current technology does not allow to predict which patients will respond to therapy and survive and which will not. That is very, very scary. That means that the technology that we have at this moment cannot necessarily predict your survival rate. It's not going to, whenever it comes to these certain things, it's not going to be able to tell exactly what's going on. And the fact that it could miss things like this, whenever you look at autism, ADHD, blood cancers, lymphomas, all of these little different things that could be missed, that are missed, 50 to 70% of people test negative but could have it, that's very scary. And so what BioNano does is they break down then. They say, what is the reason behind this and why is it so hard to detect? Well, they say that a big part of the diagnostic challenge is that the genome variations that cause diseases are not all the same. Whenever you look at this genome here, they have different things that could cause issues. They have different things here that could cause, differences and variations. We have translocations, deletions, insertions, repeat expansions, inversions. There's so many structural variations that could cause discrepancies, that could cause disorders, and cause these issues that are very hard to be tested now. Now, whenever we have current cytogenetics and we have these things to test, why is it so hard? What's the main issue that's coming around when trying to test for these disorders and finding these, structural variations? Well, it says that the human genome is highly repetitive and large structural abnormalities are often hidden among repeats. Reads from the next generation sequences, or NGS, and even long-read sequencing are too short to span the repetitive sections and thus are unable to reliably capture the large structural abnormalities and genomic aberrations. Now, another issue with these here cytogenetics is that it is an inefficient workflow. As you can see from this web, there is so much different, there's so many different things that go in it, piece to piece. As we go from fetal tissue to DNA extraction, over to microarray, to, QF-PCR, and all these different little small aspects, that is really inefficient and it makes it inconsistent. And that can lead to discrepancies. Again, that can lead to missing these disorders, missing these discrepancies, missing these variations. Now, why does this benefit BioNano? Why are they able to solve this issue? Well, they have a system called Saphyr, S-A-P-H-Y-R. And what Saphyr does is it makes this entire workflow, it makes this entire system much more consistent, much more efficient, and it leads to higher success. That efficiency, that consistency, and that up science, the way they do this thing, the way they can detect these structural variations, makes it much more efficient. So, as you can see here, they take the sample, they extract the DNA, the sample is then loaded, and then the sample is analyzed. The big thing right here is from DNA extraction and sample loaded. They take all of these, like this whole entire big process here, and they bind it into these two little steps, from DNA extraction through their system to the sample loading. And that makes things much easier. So not only are they out here, potentially saving lives, but they're doing it in a much more efficient way. There's not all this long process where all this time is being wasted that someone could be in, some deep trouble. They're actually there and they're spending this time efficiently to figure out what's going on, to analyze these samples, to find these structural variations. Now, here's a key example of why this system is so important and why this system could be so successful. If you look at this case, Saphyr found the SV that was responsible, helping solve the case in a pediatric genetic disease. This juvenile male patient suffering from muscular weakness and developmental delay, the patient tested negative by standard and advanced molecular methods, tested negative for chromosomal microarray, PCR, and Sanger sequencing, whole exon and whole genome sequencing, multiplex ligation polymorphism assay. Now, Saphyr detected a 410 kbp duplication and insertion in the DMD gene, which provided a definitive molecular diagnosis of Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. So that means through the other testing, through all of these different things, this patient tested negative. They couldn't find what exactly was going wrong with the genome. They couldn't figure out what exactly was wrong. Through the use of their technology, through the use of Saphyr, they were able to detect this kid's, what was actually going on. And I think that whenever you look at something that's so personal, whenever you see the picture of this kid, and you start to really realize how important this could be in really diagnosing these issues and diagnosing these disorders, I think that speaks a lot to a lot of people. It definitely does speak to me. Just because it's just so amazing the fact that what they're doing could be so revolutionary and it's so important going into the future that we're able to detect these things, to detect these structural variations and really get these people diagnosed with the things that are causing all of their different issues. So that is a basic overview of what BioNano does. There is a lot more that goes into it. Surprisingly, I feel like we just talked a whole bunch about what exactly they do. There's a whole bunch more science. There's a whole bunch of different other stuff. So if you would like me to go a little bit more in depth about it in another video, definitely let me know in the comment section below. I have no issue doing that as well. But we are going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at some of the other things about this company. There was some really, really big news today that the NASDAQ was going to give them a 180-day extension to regain a compliance with the bid price rule. So that's going to be super big for this company. It is important that they stay in compliance with the NASDAQ, and the fact that they were granted the 180-day extension will allow them to make sure that realistically they'll more likely stay in with compliance. But as we can see here from this article, BioNano Genomics announced today that NASDAQ has granted the company an an additional 180 compliance period, or until June 28th of 2021, to regain compliance with NASDAQ's minimum $1 closing bid price per share requirement. The NASDAQ's determination is based on the company's meeting that continue listing the requirement for market value of publicly held shares and all other applicable requirements for initial listing on the NASDAQ capital market, with the exception of the bid price requirement. And the company's written notice of its intention to cure the deficiency during the second compliance period by effecting a reverse stock split if necessary. In a letter date April 22nd, 2020, NASDAQ has notified the company that based on the previous 30 consecutive business days, the company's common stock no longer met the minimum $1 closing bid price per share requirement. Therefore, in accordance with NASDAQ's listing rules, the company was initially provided 180 calendar days, or until December 16, 2019, to gain compliance. So it is super duper important that they do, meet with compliance with this. It will be interesting to see how all this hype does go. If this thing falls back down under $1, that could be super bad, especially for the company whenever it comes to being listed on the NASDAQ. And so again, we will keep an eye on it, but that is a super positive thing going into next year, that they were granted extra time to make sure that they do meet in compliance. Now, there are a few risks when it comes to this company. I'm not going to be able to go over all of them today. I will be posting another video just specifically talking about the risks, so look forward to that. But one thing that I would like to talk about is the fact that their money is not necessarily right at the moment. They did report that they were taking losses and were going to continue taking losses likely for the next calendar year, because that they are focusing on putting that money and taking capital losses when it comes to research and development and developing their product and making it better. So hopefully with this whole, this introduction to the market where people are really starting to take notice, with things like the story we learned earlier about the juvenile male, with everything going on with him and the fact that they were able to diagnose that, hopefully that does speak to some investors. Hopefully that does speak to big companies who might be able to help invest in this company and up that cash, so maybe they won't be taking such big losses. So we can see here in this article, it does say that the return on capital employed ratio shows the current amount of assets may not actually be helping the company achieve higher returns, a note many investors will take into account when making long-term financial decisions. In Q3 earnings report, BioNano Genomics reported Q3 earnings per share at negative $0.08 per share, which did not meet analyst predictions of negative 0.05. So they are taking higher losses than originally expected. I think with all this research going on, of course, they're going to burn through capital. And so having that incoming, that consistent revenue is going to be super important. Having the right investors and the right financial people behind them will be super important for long-term success as well. But it will be interesting to see as everything does go on, as they're starting to gain popularity, as their story is starting to get out there, to see how the market reacts and how that they are then able to use maybe invested cash and all of these different things to be able to go ahead and up their game, up their finances, and get that financial backing strong. I hope you guys did enjoy that video. This is one that was a little bit different. I usually have a lot of time to plan these videos. I like to really go strictly basically I'll plan out a video and I'll go thing for thing. I know exactly what I want to talk about. In this one, I really wanted to just dive deep into this company. It does take a little bit to understand it. That was the hardest thing about it, was really understanding what exactly it was talking about. But once I got a pretty good understanding of what exactly the technology is, what their goals and product focus are, it was important to me to be able to bring this to you guys. I really would like to start talking a lot more about stocks that you would like to hear about. So definitely let me know about different companies and stocks that you want me to do some research on, bring a video to you guys and see what you think. But with that being said, I will be back soon. This is probably video number 2 for the day. I hope you guys are enjoying this grind, this hustle. I'm back and I'm loving it. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.